Hey there, it's Matthew Daughter. Welcome back to Ask BirdGuy. So today I want to talk a little bit about bird songs. It's springtime, and one of the first things I always hear from students this time of year is, when are we going to talk about songs? When am I going to learn the songs? Let's talk about songs. So there are a couple things I would like to get out of the way first. One is there are tons of resources to help you learn bird songs. Just a little bit of background. For a long time, field guides were often including a disc of songs, like this Stokes book. There was a disc of songs in the back, which was quite good. I really enjoyed that. There was a National Geographic series of CDs that were meant to accompany the book, and of course the Peterson Western bird songs, Eastern bird songs. The Peterson series has got a birding by ear series, which is especially nice because it kind of sorts things out for you, helps you learn a vocabulary to describe bird sounds. I particularly like this series, songs of bird songs of California. This is a Macaulay Library boxed set, and what's really nice about it is all the bird songs, even the bird species that occur in the entire North American area. These are local recordings for California, so actually it's quite nice in that respect. But I think the time for boxed sets and CDs is kind of past us now. There are so many apps, there are so many online resources. You just have to open the Sibley app to find bird songs. So that's a good way to listen and learn. But learning bird songs really just takes a whole lot of practice. There's one additional book I would point out, The Singing Life of Birds, Donald Kreutzmann. And I think this is pretty wonderful, just sort of trying to pick apart bird songs, talk about what they mean to the bird and how the songs are constructed and what time when they use the various sounds that they make. So that's a really good book, and it too comes with a disc in the back. But as I said, I think the time for discs and CDs is sort of past us. Now, I'll talk a little bit about some online resources shortly. But I also wanted to reassure you that no matter what you think your ability with birdsong is, you probably already know quite a few songs, more than you think you know. So if you say, I don't recognize bird songs, I'd say nonsense. You probably already know the sound of the American crow. You probably also know California scrub jay, mourning dove, great horned owl. By the time you count up all the birds that you sort of know without even knowing that you know them, you're probably talking about 5, 10, 15, 20 species that you recognize. I would suggest also that you probably recognize the sound of a gull. Since most of the gulls we have here right now are California gulls, my guess is that if you listen outside your window and you hear a gull passing over your house, most likely it's a California gull right now. So connect the bird sound with the bird that you see, and that makes a connection in your brain, I think, is really, really important. So just as a matter of course, when you're trying to learn bird songs, when you go outside and you hear a bird you don't quite recognize, or even if you do think you recognize it, make sure you see the bird at the same time as you're hearing it. I think what that does is it just connects portions of your brain, and it hardens the memory for you. So, just give that a try. Okay, so here is the first thing I'd like to talk about. Allaboutbirds.org is a Cornell site. It's completely free. And one of the things it'll allow you to do is search for a species. The first thing that I would recommend is find the website and find the homepage and type in something simple, like Dark-eyed Junco. And we'll use that in the same way that we've used red-tailed hawk or California gull as sort of an ambassador species. The red-tailed hawk, being the most common hawk in the area, is a great bird to learn in order to identify the other hawks in the area. So it is sort of our default buteo, the red-tailed hawk. And by the same token, the California gull is the sort of default gull in our area. You use that to compare all other gulls to. So when we're talking about bird songs, I think we're gonna break down the songs into groups. And the first group we'd like to talk about is trills. And our ambassador species for that will be Dark-eyed Junco, very familiar, a very common bird. We all have seen it, we've all heard it, and now we're going to use that to compare to other kind of similar sounding birds in our area. So now that we're on the website, you can see that the Dark-eyed Junco in the picture is not like the Dark-eyed Junco that we have got here. It looks like they've selected the slate-colored Junco, which is sort of an eastern counterpart to our Oregon Junco. It's all the same species, but these are just different regional variations. The one in the east of the Rockies tends to be grayish, solidly gray like that, and ours has got brown and black and chestnut, and she's maybe prettier than the one on the east. Kind of subjective. So looking at this website, you could see that there's a video and there's a button to listen to the sound. And I suggest when you have a chance, give that a try. And when we're going to play the recording in the background now, and what you'll hear is a very straightforward, simple trill. The trill is a rapid repeat of two notes side by side, but very fast. So that would be something like a trill. Two notes rapidly alternated. If you played an instrument in the past or you've sung in a choir, musical terms, musical theory is really helpful sometimes in getting to the subtle parts of bird song. It gives you a vocabulary, among other things. Staccato is a really good word. Woody, if you played a wind instrument, maybe that means something to you. Reedy or wiry. All kinds of words like that can be added after you determine that a bird song belongs in the Trillers category. So in any case, we're hearing it in the background now. And what I notice about it is that the song is really just... Here, I quickly drew a little thing here to represent what it sounds like to me. It sounds to me like the song is just going straight through basically the same tone, straight through, and it doesn't really change. It doesn't increase in volume, and it doesn't go up in pitch or down in pitch or anything. It's just a straight trill, so from left to right. So this is actually kind of an important thing to think about. How do you draw a bird song? There are ways to draw bird songs, and they usually come out of what's called a spectrogram, is an audio recording that's made visual. I'll show you some of those also. But any sound that a bird makes will translate into a visual image, and this is an oversimplification of an image like that. So we see in the case of the Dark-eyed Junco, a song that is rather consistent, doesn't change a lot. It's quite beautiful. It's got a ringing quality to it, which many books will highlight, but it doesn't change much. It's quite simple. It's repeated, and the notes are quite fast, so you couldn't possibly count them. So that's another thing that sort of helps us recognize a trill, is it's so fast that it really can't be counted. And I'd say that Dark-eyed Junco falls into that category. So another bird, an obvious comparison to the dark-eyed junco that I want to do next is orange-crowned warbler. This is a really common warbler in our area, and if you take a walk in the woods, my guess is that you'll hear this pretty quickly. You'll hear juncos and you'll hear the orange-crowned warbler, often in the same area, but they're really quite different. So you could probably hear it in the background now. And just for a moment, think about how you would describe its difference from the junco. Remember, the junco looked kind of like this. Oops. Yeah. You know, kind of straight and unchanging. Doesn't really move up or down, doesn't change speed, it just kind of keeps going. How would you describe the dark-eyed junco when you listen to it? And I'm going to draw a little picture of it while you're thinking about that and listening to the song. Okay, so here's what I came up with. I think the orange-crowned warbler has a quality of going up and back down. If you listen carefully also, it also sounds like those trilled notes at the end kind of slow down a little bit. It almost runs out of gas is one common way of expressing it. So I think compared to the dark-eyed junco with these nice clean notes that alternate and don't change very much, the orange-crowned warbler kind of goes up and down a little bit and slows a little bit toward the end. Almost sounds like it's running out of gas. So I like the sound of this bird, the orange-crowned warbler. To me, because I always hear it in spring and in summer, it always reminds me of warmer weather. And the first time I hear an orange-crowned warbler each spring, I just love it. It just fills me with warmth. And we do have some that overwinter in our area, but they tend not to sing like this. So it's really when this singing begins, I get nostalgic. I just love the way the orange-crowned warbler sounds. That kind of chittery, swelling trill. Now, if you want to talk about the trill of a dark-eyed junco, with its ringing quality, almost bell-like, it's kind of musical, the orange-crowned warbler doesn't seem to have quite the same musical quality. Instead of a trill, we might actually refer to it as a sputtering trill or a chittering, something along those lines, just to kind of needle in on the subtlety of its difference. It is perhaps even faster. The notes that make up the trill are faster, more compressed, and there's this up and down quality to it. So I love the orange-crowned warbler, and especially if you get a glimpse of the orange crown, which is hard to see. So here's another kind of brightly colored bird, the Wilson's warbler. So very common during the spring and summer in their area. It's a fairly early migrant, so it arrives here from the south pretty early in the season. And its song is playing in the background now, I believe. It has something in common with the orange-crowned, and that would be the fact that it sort of goes up and down a little bit. But instead of being like that, it's more of a chit 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 chit. So I kind of represent it like this. So instead of the orange-crowned warbler being a smooth and overly fast, too fast to count, and unlike the dark-eyed junco, which is smooth and uniform and ringing quality, this one is just really staccato, I guess. It goes up and down a little bit. It might actually increase in volume a little bit in the middle, but it definitely has an up and down quality to it. But you could count these notes, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Something along those lines. So big difference between the orange-crowned and the Junco and the Wilson's Warbler. Okay, so the next bird is another triller, I think. It's the chipping sparrow. And it is very different from the other songs that we just heard. It's probably closest to one of them, and you tell me what you think. Well, don't tell me, but just think about which one you believe it resembles most closely between the Dark-eyed Junco, the orange-crowned warbler, the Wilson's Warbler. So the chipping sparrow sounds quite a bit like one of them, but very different from the other two. So think about which you think it's closest to. You can hear it right now. So for me, I guess I would draw this. I'm drawing it. I think I would draw it kind of like that. So just looking at this picture, which bird does it resemble most closely of the previous three? So if you were thinking it sounds and it looks a little bit like the Dark-eyed Junco right here, I'd say that's about right, because the other two birds, the orange-crowned warbler goes up, and so too does the Wilson's Warbler. The Dark-eyed Junco stays consistently on one tone, one level in the song, and that level, of course, is made up of trilled notes. But in the case of the Junco, the notes were slow and ringing and musical. I mean, it's still faster than you can count, but it had a musical quality to it. It had a note to it that you could sort of hear. And it's pleasing. It's ringing. The chipping sparrow, on the other hand, is a much more mechanical, almost robotic. It sounds very much unlike what you think about when you think about bird song. You think about something musical. You think about something lyrical that has got tonality to it. And the chipping sparrow really doesn't. It's very, very fast. One, you could even say it's insect-like, but there are other songs that are even more insect-like Grasshopper Sparrow or Savannah Sparrow. But chipping sparrow does share that rapid trill that borders on a buzz. And that's really all a buzz is. If you hear songs described as buzzes, they are likely just very tightly compressed trills. Just notes too fast to separate. There's no space between the notes, in fact.